All right, welcome to RVA Rapid Transit's Transit Talk. This is where every month, we have conversation about trending topics that are happening in public transportation in the Richmond, Virginia region. My name is Faith Walker. I'm the executive director for RVA Rapid Transit. For those of you who know who we are, welcome back. But for those of you who don't know what we do, we are a nonprofit here in the Richmond region. We advocate for frequent and far-reaching public transportation. We want to see buses go more places, out into the county lines. We want to see dignified places to wait, more shelters and benches. Also frequency. So you'll hear a comment from a bus rider today, and related to buses moving through the city. And then last but not least, we wanted to figure out strategies and ways that bus riders can participate in transit planning and decision making. And so this is one of those opportunities where bus riders, citizens can learn things about public transportation in the region. And so that's why we created this transit talk. Also, we are really getting behind zero fare and creating strategies and ways to implement zero fare permanently throughout the region. Today, before I get started, I just want to go over some housekeeping. We do record this, so if you would just keep yourself on mute through the entire presentation. We do have an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end. We ask that you would ask your question using our chat feature, and you can do hashtag Q, but we love commentary, comments, hand claps throughout the entire webinar, so you can definitely do that in the chat. But if you have a question so that we can recognize your question, make sure you do hashtag Q. So before we get started, we always talk about some news. So let's talk about what's happening, what is up with the bus in Richmond. Henrico County just purchased a property, or announced the purchase of a property for a new park and ride. And so this park and ride will facilitate the expansion of the western terminus for the GRTC Pulse. So that is exciting news. This will be a small park and ride, but definitely a park and ride within the region. And so people can park their car, use it to catch the Pulse downtown, to local events, work, whatever they need. So this is awesome. And it's just really awesome to see the progression and movement and the regional collaboration and getting buses out into the county lines and extensions. So we're excited about that. And just this week, actually was today is Friday, just yesterday, GRTC voted to advance Site 9, the former site of the public safety building, to the future downtown transfer station. And so this is just a step forward. We have a ways to go. So it's going to take collaboration with different investors, and the regional collaborations to see this project through. So RVA Rapid Transit is in full support of a permanent downtown transfer station. Number one is we want to make sure people are covered from the elements, from the heat, and extreme heat, conditions, weather conditions, and this proposed plan does that. And then secondly, we believe that Site 9 is the best option because it's right across the street from where the current temporary station is. So this will decrease the amount of I guess, inconvenience. If the current site were built on, then that will disrupt parking for the court buildings, but also disrupt the current flow and downtown transfer. So we're so excited that GRTC wants to move forward with the site across the street. All right, and then we want to say congratulations to Stephanie. If you'll put some in the comments in the chat, just say congrats, Stephanie. Stephanie just completed a 9-month training course where she, with the Virginia Walkability Action Institute, and this institute really wants to help regional teams to create policy systems, whether it's environmental, to increase physical activity and walkability and transit. And she completed that 9-month course. And so throughout that course, there were different training modules that she had to complete, anywhere from trainings to with VDOT and other transportation consultants and agencies. And so we're just so excited that she completed this, and she managed a team of collaborations between PSG as well as Virginia New Majority in creating a special project to redesign and do a rebirth of Southside Plaza. As we all know, Southside Plaza needs a lot of love and tenderness. So she managed a project for a consulting firm to sort of do some feasibility drawings and drafting of what this site could look like. And so I want to show you that there. So this is what we came up with. So some new paint. And then in the future, possibly some trees and a loading area. So this is all feasibility right now. We're still working with our partners at GRTC, with the city of Richmond, and as well as their property manager to see these through. But these drawings, these draftings will not have been made or done without the support and the completion of this cohort with Stephanie. So again, congratulations, Stephanie. All right, so before I continue, we always have a opportunity where we hear from bus riders, our writer's voice portion. So if you don't know, a huge part of our advocacy is going out and speaking to bus riders. So I'm going to turn it over to, is it Stephanie or Courtney? I'm not quite sure who's presenting today.
I can jump in.
All right, take it.
All right. Courtney, if you're like hot to trot, you can also come on and do it, but we will kind of go forward. So yeah, thanks for all the congratulations. And like Faith said, this is our Rider's Voice portion. So Courtney is our transit ambassador here at RVA Rapid Transit. And so she and myself, we go out to bus stops, and sometimes the whole team will go to our bus stops as well to gather these comments and feedback from people directly in the middle of their day. So we often go to the downtown transfer station because that allows us to meet with and talk to people who are traveling north and south, east and west. So many bus routes go there. So that's a great place to go and connect with people and really get to hear the issues that people are directly dealing with, both the wins and the challenges. So today we've got two comments, one from Cinda, and we'll start with hers. And it's particularly relevant just because we've been seeing such high temperatures lately, and we know our last transit talk was about the impact of these high temperatures on bus riders, on pedestrians that are standing outside waiting for the bus with no shelter, no shade. So this directly impacts people. So here's let's hear from Cinda.
Cindy Rowland. The route I'm talking about is the Darbytown route. That you have to take 3 buses to get there. Sometimes it take an hour, and sometimes the bus don't even run. There's several times I got stuck down there because the bus stopped running for hours. So I would like to see a straight bus to run down to Darbytown Road. I was frustrated and hot that day. No shelter out there. I was staying in the sun. That day was almost 90 degrees out there. I feel they just need to put a straight bus instead of, running catching 3 buses there, direct routes to there.
Yeah, so we just know that when anything kind of impacts our service, anytime a bus is late or doesn't come on time, that means more time for people to be waiting outside. And so we really need to see some more trees being involved in our structures and more shelters coming. So then with Willie, we've got a good topic for today, since we're about to speak with some engineers in the city of Richmond. So Willie's topic is the buses, how they often tend to bunch. And so I wanted to get on the phone with GRTC before this, just to kind of have a bit of a conversation to see, well, why do buses bunch and what can be done to change it? So basically, we know that buses are caught in traffic just like everybody else, and there's high capacity on our roads right now. And so one thing that can help mitigate is fully dedicated bus lanes. So hopefully we can talk about that a little bit later today. So let's hear from Willie.
All right. Okay. Again, my name is Willie, and I catch bus route 3, A, B, or C. And I'm thankful the buses are still free. I'm worried about how much they're going to be once they are not free, though. I have a problem with the fact that normally in the afternoons around 3 or 4 o'clock, there are 2 buses back to back going to the same direction. But then there may be an hour wait before another. Why can't they spread those buses out? You have 2 buses, both of them have maybe 10 on each bus. I think that's a waste because it could spread the buses out.
Wait, I mean,
Yeah, so another thing that I heard from GRTC today was they're doing some studies to see how they can help mitigate bunching, because it is an issue and it takes a route that maybe has a 15-minute frequency, but when both of the buses are coming together, that means that really the frequency changes from every 15 to at least every 30 minutes, maybe even more than that. So it kind of mitigates and deters that high frequency route. So they have been looking into some technology that they potentially will invest in that would help them, like from their radio room at GRTC, keep track of where the buses are and actually like real time talk to the bus drivers and tell them when they can go and when they need to hold back so that bunching doesn't occur. So yeah, thank you so much, Willie, for bringing that to our attention. It is an issue, and it's great to know that GRTC is looking at it also. So I will turn it back over to you, Faith.
All right, thank you so much, Stephanie. And we have some art happening right now. So I don't know where that's coming from. We appreciate it. Maybe this is a tribute to the red dedicated lanes. I saw Henry mention that, something that could mitigate is dedicated lanes and signal priority for the bunching of the bus. So we're all for that. So thank you for putting that in the chat, Henry. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to what we're all here for. And so I want to introduce right now Dirana Clark Moore. She is the deputy director. She is the deputy director for the Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility, a huge supporter and community partner of ours. And so I want to bring her on just to talk about putting the rapid in rapid transit. So go right ahead, Dirana, take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Dirana Moore Clark here. Putting the transit in transit. The Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility has really played a large part in the funding of a lot of the efforts that have been happening around transit. We think about the BRT red lanes. I remember coming in and it was, hey, the mayor wants some red lanes, and it's to make these lanes more prominent. And so our office looked to apply with the Department of Rail and Public Transportation for those demonstration dollars to get it funded and put into place. We have also been intricate in the downtown transfer center and the north-south BRT line. We've been instrumental through the Central Virginia Transportation Authority in that both of those projects have regional dollars on them to support grant applications and moving those efforts forward for GRTC. And so we've been a great partner.
I have that lollipop too.
And Mr. Woods, you keep going in and off on the mute. I'm sorry. But again, a key to making transit faster again is money. So that's again what we like to focus on, is really getting the money there to set that seed. We're working again with the Transportation Planning Organization on those CMAQ dollars and RSTP dollars to really do the signalization projects that Andy is going to talk about. And so I just wanted to come on here and really express that the city of Richmond is really leading this charge when it comes to at least from the Richmond end, and saying that we're trying to put our dollars where we want to see improvement and growth. And so hopefully over the last 4 years since the office's inception, we've been able to do that in the community. I know we're working with RVA Rapid Transit on their South Side improvement. So really closing the gap sometimes for dollars to make things happen. We've supported the free fare from the city of Richmond's end in regard to helping to get that done. Our office also was the head for the Richmond Connects. And in Richmond Connects, we say that free fare should be in the future for the next 10 years. And so we really have set standards using the citizens' voices and really trying to apply dollars to those priorities. And again, a part of the equity agenda was to ensure that everyone across Richmond that needs access to these services have access. And so I will briefly come back after Andy shares with you some of the cool things that a division of public works is doing here in the city. And I'll talk a little bit about bike share to wrap it up. But other than that, thanks for having me on. So excited. And this programming is so nice. Faith, good job. And I look forward to talking and going through this afternoon meeting with all of you. Thank you.
I was going to treat this like a lunch and learn and talk with my mouth full, but I decided to spare you guys. I am going to share my screen. Thanks, Arana. Let's see. There we go. I assume that's coming through clearly. I'm Andy Baino. I also work in the city's Department of Public Works and specifically in the Transportation Engineering Division. And I thought just briefly why we're here. What me in particular, since I'm not a transit planner, I ride the bus when it's too rainy or too snowy for me to ride my bike to work, but I'm not a transit expert in the sense that some people are fantastic at designing routes and designing where a bus stop should go and that sort of thing. But so much of our work in transportation engineering is absolutely about transit. You guys in the past, the last event that I was at, State of Transit, which had some great programming, I know you hear a lot about the bus stop, which is very important. I thought it'd be helpful from my perspective to talk about the bus go. It's the access to and from the bus, and then on the street, once the bus gets moving, how does it keep moving, and how do you get service improved and more reliable? And so, that example earlier about waiting in the heat, it's one way to improve that, of course, is at the stop itself and adding shade. And another, it sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but another way to mitigate that heat issue is get people on a bus quicker so that when they do arrive at a bus stop, even if there is no shade, they're not there for long before they're on the bus and moving. So I've found that in conferences, when I'm with other transportation planners and engineers, we spend a lot of time talking about the what of the work that we do. So specific projects, the types of funding application that we do, public surveys, and so on. And that translates, we talk to each other about those sorts of details. And then I find that when we're talking with ordinary people, normies, media, people that are attending a public meeting, we get in that same habit, which it's fine. It's important to talk about project specifics, but what we sometimes miss is the why behind it. Specifically why so much of our work relates to, in this case, transit. So if I'm talking with folks about the bus, I don't want to just talk about the material inside the bus. Is it clean? Is it safe? Those sorts of things. I want to talk about how my work connects to transit. So I'm going to be brief through this because, I'm going to try to be brief. Easier said than done. But I'm going to try to be brief because I want us to be able to get to a a point where you can ask us anything about specific work or how exactly these things that we're doing week in and week out make for better transit. So this first, let's see. This I wanted to include right away as kind of our North Star. Two big things, Complete Streets and Vision Zero. Complete Streets is just the wonky version of saying a street network that provides safe and reliable options for all ages and abilities. And we want to be able to have as simple a description as possible because this is not rocket science. This is basic stuff that when you put all the streets together in combination, that's the network. They give access to everybody. And then Vision Zero, which you've probably seen ad campaigns about recently, and if not, you're gonna see and hear more because this is a huge initiative for the city of Richmond. We want to eliminate life-altering crashes. Like, we know that serious injuries and fatalities in traffic are preventable, and so our work is to get rid of that stuff. And both of these things are North Star for Richmond. Absolutely relate to people that are using the bus, even if whether you use the bus 5% of the time or 100% of the time. This stuff that drives us is important for you all. So I'm going to go through 5 ways. Well, I'm going to talk about 4, and then Dorana's going to talk about the 5th, but 5 ways that DPW is making transit rapid. And the first is speed management. So we're trying to slow everybody else down so that you can speed up is the gist of it. But just a couple of things on this. You may have attended one of the city's speed management symposiums or seen some of the things in the press about Richmond Police Department using traffic safety cameras, enforcement coming up about speed, and you'll hear folks from Public Works talk about how important it is to manage speed. And in those conversations, we're not necessarily talking about the bus or transit or GRTC or expanding BRT, but here's why this absolutely matters. These numbers off to the side. The slower that motor vehicle traffic is going, the safer it is for people who are waiting for a bus, who are on the bus, and then who are getting off the bus. This is a systems approach. If we can calm people down when they're behind the wheel, everything else gets better. And that's a huge thing for people, especially on a busy transit corridor, because we know are the places where people are speeding the most. It's this idea of speed management it goes back to that kind of vision statement of providing safe access and mobility for all ages and abilities. Because in the times that someone does get struck by a driver, if it's a slow moving crash, then the likelihood that that person will survive is so much greater. One thing that you probably have heard from Public Works Department is about our high injury network, which is basically 9% of our city streets that have the vast majority of serious injuries and fatalities on them. Something like 70% of our serious injuries and fatalities are on just 9% of our streets. So that's the high injury network. Now, what's challenging is it's the streets that you would probably expect. It's the busy streets. It's the wide streets. It's the streets that have the highest transit action. Of course, if it's a busy corridor like a Broad Street or a Chamberlain or a Hull Street, you're gonna need high frequency bus service. And it just so happens that's where people behind the wheel are behaving badly and causing crashes. And so the work that we're doing, prioritizing the high injury network, is absolutely linked to making a better experience for transit. The second one, this is kind of obvious, but I thought it was worth including anyway. The signal systems update that the city has been working on in recent years, and then will continue to work on. I'm sure, heard the phrase priority transit timing or something similar to that. And we've all seen, this is a picture from just Google Street View, we've all seen on Broad Street and other places where buses sometimes have their very own lights and they might go before people in cars go. That's one kind of obvious signal system way of giving buses priority. Another way is just making it so that the system as a whole, Richmond has about 500 signalized intersections, making it so that when buses are going through lights in long stretches on a particular road, that signal system is timed in such a way that, assuming the bus driver is going the speed limit, they move slowly through the system, that they're not feeling that same kind of discomfort that you feel when you're in an area and it's, you know, if you don't make this light, you're going to get stuck at the next one, where it's that alternating red, green, red, green. When am I going to get through a light? Like, can I get through 2 intersections in a row without stopping? And so Richmond has been very deliberate in setting their signal system up in such a way that if you're going the speed limit, that it's going to be generally smooth sailing through these intersections. And when I say that, I don't mean like speeding through, like just go 50 miles an hour through everything. But if you're doing 25 miles an hour through these 25-mile-an-hour corridors, the signal system encourages that and basically rewards that. So that's not only important for ordinary motor vehicle traffic to keep things moving as a system, but it's important for transit. Another way that you might not notice a signal system update that's important for people getting on and off the bus is the leading pedestrian intervals. And this is just a very, it's such a simple thing. It's funny that it's taken so many years in the transportation industry to get to the point where it's become normalized, but it's giving people a head start to walk across the street before cars start moving. So you might see at some lights on Broad Street, for example, where while the red lights are still up for cars, you'll see the walk indication go. So the pedestrian light goes from the red hand to the go ahead and cross now. And that'll be up for a few seconds, and then the light will turn green. That's important for people getting on and off the bus because you're not always at the bus stop. Sometimes you're a block away. You're trying to get to the bus stop. And so that those sorts of pedestrian realm improvements are also a transit rider's dream. This next one, another obvious one that came up already, reconfiguring streets in such a way that you give more priority to the bus. This is Broad Street. This is just Google Street View before and after the changes that we've all seen in recent years. It's hard to believe that wasn't that long ago before we saw that view at the top where Broad Street was just dominated by passenger vehicles. And of course, if you're in the bus and you're gonna be stuck behind people doing sometimes they're going to just stop in that right lane and let somebody out. You're going to have the Uber and Lyft drivers just stop in front of a bus. If we can separate the buses, that's one obvious way of having better reliability, letting them move smoothly, even if there's congestion through the regular, we call them general purpose lanes. And then on a busy street where you have this sort of dedication for transit, and you might not also have room for dedicated bike lanes, bikes are allowed in the lane with the bus. Again, back to that complete streets issue or principle, not every street is the same. So not all streets will have dedicated transit lanes. Not all streets will have dedicated bike lanes. But on some busy corridors, it makes so much sense, especially where you have more than one bus route going on a particular corridor. An example of this coming up would be, I mean, not coming up as an immediate project, but you've, I'm sure, heard in the news about the Mayo Bridge. So Mayo Bridge, of course, has been around for a long, long time. We're seeing quite a bit of growth on the south side of Richmond, and we're getting to the point where the bridge is going to have to be, something's going to have to be done either with the bridge or make a new bridge. Just lots of questions up in the air, and there's going to be public meetings organized by Virginia Department of Transportation about that. And you can look at that sort of future of crossing the James River as, is there an opportunity to be even more pro-transit, or do you design that bridge in sort of an anti-transit way? And the way I would describe anti-transit would be you just plop the buses in with all the other passenger vehicle traffic, and if there's traffic jam, oh well, the buses are stuck. The pro-transit view would be Is there an opportunity to graduate that street to the point where you can have dedicated transit lanes through that very important corridor into the ever-growing Manchester and beyond, south of the James River? This next one, reconfiguring streets to bike lanes. Less obvious than the transit lane, but this is Brook Road on the north side. And again, just a few years ago, it was it looked very different than it does today. And this is just simply using paint and flexible posts to transform a street from what feels like something that's moving way too fast and prioritizing motor vehicles to something that calms down drivers. The physical change just with paint makes people think that they need to go slower because they feel a pinch. What you don't see in this bottom picture is, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but where to the right of where it says Brook Road, that's like a parking area now. And so even though Google Street View does not have a car parked in there at the moment, cars parked separate the driving lane from the bike lane. So this does a couple of things. It's obviously an improvement if you're riding bikes because now you have this physical separation from car traffic. But then for transit, the connection is less obvious, and that is there are a lot of areas in the city that have low frequency transit service. There are some places that have high frequency. If you happen to be in a spot that has low frequency service, how great would it be if you can hop on a bike and quickly get to a high frequency area? So perhaps your destination is only a mile or two away and you're totally comfortable just riding your bike the whole way. Or maybe you're going to be going a few miles, maybe it's hot, maybe for whatever reason, you want part of your trip to be on the bus. We all know by now, I assume everybody on this call is aware that GRTC buses are equipped to carry bicycles. So if you can get to the point where you can wait at a bus stop with your bike and then put the bike on the bus and continue your journey, this type of thing, reconfiguring streets with bike lanes, is part of that experience to get people from the low frequency areas to the high frequency areas. So this is all a systems approach. Transit and bus and bike are such good friends, even though historically they've been treated as kind of separate. You do bike planning over here and you do transit planning over there. These two modes are so linked. And then I'll use that as a way to segue back to Durana, because it's not just about your own personal bicycle and riding your bike from your home or your place of work to the bus stop. It's also about the shared bikes.
Thanks, Andy. I'm just going to close it up with some emphasis on our bike share program. So Andy did a great job in explaining how transit and bikes work well together. I think, in past years, it was a big initiative to get bus racks on the bus. And so that, well, not a few years now, that's probably 10 years now. Ooh, time flies. But anyway, and so we're seeing that it's very important for last mile, first and last mile. And Andy is even thinking about those who may want to integrate active transportation or biking even into their daily commute integrated with transit. So bike share is growing. We've actually have an agreement. We will be coming up probably the spring 25 in Henrico County at the U of R campus. And so we're very excited for that expansion. And because, it's typically been, what's done in Richmond really, others won't really pick up. But Henrico has been a great friend. And as you've seen with all the developments in Henrico's end, this is a continuing pushing. Oh, awesome. This is another way of pushing multimodal to areas that have become more urban in character than traditionally in the past. And so we have these techniques that we want to share. We've also done huge expansions. We've done huge expansions at our libraries. So we're trying to focus on destinations as well. So where do people want to go? We've even taken focuses on some corner stores within neighborhoods, really looking at the place of where someone in Fairfield, where are they trying to get to? Typically, you know, it's a store, it's a library, it's a work. So we've also look to do additional expansion in our communities of concern that consist of some of our housing communities. But again, we have still expansion efforts for maybe over 10 more stations to come. And so our program supervisor over that, Brandon King, has been really working hard on that. We just put out an RFP for a new provider, and we're excited about that. And so they have transitioned from free, they're back to cost, and so we do ask that you try to continue to enjoy those. But that little moment, you know, the moment of fare free for the bikes have come to an end, but they're still really affordable. I encourage you to get monthly or annual passes. They become more affordable. But again, bike share is definitely here to stay, and we want to protect it as a mode of transportation to move around Richmond and now into our surrounding areas as well, in an active mode of transportation. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, I'll turn it back over to Andy.
Oh, you're giving it to me. Do I need to unshare? Oh wait, I guess I'm just gonna, here, let me put it here. That's all we had
okay.
for our 5 things. So you got to be careful if you said turn it back over to me, because I'll monologue us until mid-afternoon.
Oh,
So
well,
ask
no.
us anything. What do you guys have?
All right, so it looks like we had someone ask a question. Let's see, Christian asked a question. Is there such a thing as timed pedestrian signals? So if I walk at an average walk speed, is it possible to make it so I can expect the walk sign to be on at each intersection? That's interesting. So yeah, I enjoyed your conversation about signal systems. I thought that was pretty fascinating, and I didn't know all of that was put into thought. So yes, is there something for pedestrians to enjoy that timed walk and ease of going through some lights?
I like that question, Christian. I've not heard of that. But I'm gonna put you in touch with somebody who will give you far more answers than you even knew. You wouldn't even know there were some questions about that you could ask. But I'm gonna connect you with our signal systems manager. The short, here's a short answer that's not a direct response to that. But the idea of leading pedestrian intervals kind of does that. It kind of, even if you have to pause a bit at the cross street, the idea is give people walking and rolling a little bit of a head start, which makes it so much better crossing those streets. Because if you don't have that and cars and people start at the very same time to cross an intersection, what happens is a driver making a left, let's say, will be the faster one. They'll be more aggressive. And what happens with the people walking or in a wheelchair, they tend to be timid, and so they'll wait. They'll stand back and they'll wait for the cars to pass because they feel like, well, it's a car in there now. Like even if they have a walk signal, they'll wait. And so that just that very simple adjustment on some of these busy corridors of leading pedestrian interval goes towards that goal of what you're describing. I do like your magic rhythm. I mean, I'm visualizing this just at your pace, just magically making each light go green for pedestrians. I like that.
All right. Now, Tamara asked a question, where is GRTC service to Stony Point and Fashion Park. Tamara, I don't know if you are familiar with any transportation apps. Most everybody has either Google Maps or Maps on their phone. I'm not quite sure what device you're using, or even the transit app. But if you download or have any of those apps, the cool thing about those apps is, especially let's say for Google Maps, you would enter the location you want to go. So from your location to Stony Point Fashion Park, and there are going to be 3 options at the top. One looks like a transit, one looks like a car. You need to click on the transit option, the public transportation option, and it'll give you a guided tour path. Also, you can visit GRTC's website, and they have a way where you can plan your trip, okay? But what we can do is one of our transit ambassadors who's on the line right now, we'll be happy to take your information down and walk you through some things on how to navigate, okay? All right, so let's see, any other questions? Can you share more about the bike share program in the city and how can people access this program? So I guess that one is for Diana.
Yeah, so I put in the link, the RVA Bikes webpage. On there, you can kind of see you can see the system map, and you can see, again, I can see some of my down stations as I'm looking at it as well. But again, you can see the map, you can see, again, I think we share a little bit on the on transit that may be near them as well on the map. And so again, I would advise you to go to rvabikes.com. But again, you can call Brandon King. Let me see if I have Brandon's number here, but he's Brandon, BRANDON.King at rva.gov. And you can share everything about bike sharing.
All right, and this question is from Henry. It says, when it comes to shared bus bike facilities, does the city have preferences between a protected bike lane next to a bus lane or a bus lane bike share-o, okay, or something else?
The answer to that is it's a giant it depends. And you're asking somebody who wants the entire network to be delightful for people on bikes, because I have an extreme bias for that. Plus, I would call myself a slow rider. Like, I want to be upright and I don't want to break a sweat. I'm wearing a collared shirt. So it depends on what street you're talking about, and where the lanes connect to each other. But the big picture is we want our system of bike lanes to be such that eventually all ages and abilities can ride. So whether you're using a heavier, the sturdy bike share bike, or you're just on your own personal bike, we want it to be not only connected so that it's an actual network and not just a lane to nowhere, but we also want it to feel intuitive, so that if there are areas where you're in a place where you're sharing a bus lane, that it makes sense. So that if you come from a street where you have your own bike lane and then you turn onto a different street that now has a bus lane that you share, we want that to be intuitive. And so some of that has to do with pavement markings. Some of that's going to have to do with mode shift over time. Like as Richmond becomes a better place to both ride the bus and ride bikes, you'll see more people doing these things, and then you'll realize, oh, that's easy. That giant red lane, I can be in that. Okay, that's good. And then some people have asked me recently about the safety aspect of that. Like, why would I want to ride in the bus lane? Because buses are bigger than cars. And my answer to that is, as somebody who's in those lanes, like, absolutely, if I can be separated from vehicle traffic, that's ideal. What's nice about those bus lanes is there's not always a bus right in front of you or right behind you, just because of the spacing of buses. You have these natural gaps where you have a buffer between you and other vehicles.
All right, and Jackie asks about the North-South BRT. A lot of people want to know more information about that. Thank you, Henry, for mentioning that there is a public meeting coming up September 16th. I definitely advise you to participate in our newsletter. because we want to keep you posted as well. So on those dates. So Jackie, thank you for asking that. And then Dirana put in there where you can visit, get more information. You go to rvabikes.com. That's where you can get more information about the bike share. All right, and let's see if there's anything else.
I'll throw one other thing on top of that, BRT. This is the old, when was the best time to support BRT? It was 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. So even though it's in the future, like just now starting to look at things like North-South line and expanding the East-West line, support that stuff now. Because what people will often forget is that, or they'll think that if they just fill out a survey or do one thing one time, that they can be done. They can say, okay, I showed my support. I bought my bumper sticker, whatever. Be vocal about this, because this has to do with so much of the way that the city is developing and growing. The more people that just are constantly beating that drum of strong support for things like BRT, the better off our city is going to be for it.
Great. In lowering pedestrian bicycle death injuries, what role does the decrease in traffic enforcement play? And is there any chance enforcement will rebound?
That's a great question. And now hearing that question, I'm bummed that I didn't think to include that in my list of things that are actually transit projects that people don't think of as transit projects. So nationwide, driver behavior got awful after 2020. This has been blogged to death. Many people have covered that issue. And there's a lot of reasons for it. And a lot of areas across the country never rebounded from traffic enforcement. So we've seen that in our region, the Richmond region, where Henrico and Chesterfield were able to maintain some level of traffic enforcement, and they didn't see the same types of serious injuries and fatalities spike like the city of Richmond did. What's happening now in the city specifically, that's, I think, a dramatic improvement, is the safety camera program. And this is something that Public Works is supporting Richmond Police Department on, but RPD is the lead. And there's two types of safety cameras. One that you probably saw in the news back in the spring, that started up while school was still in session in the spring. Well, you wouldn't say in session for elementary school, but while school was still in before summer break, those were the cameras that catch drivers going more than 10 over the speed limit while kids are coming and going from school, which is crazy. But there are so many people speeding, like thousands of citations being issued to people in Richmond who are going more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit while elementary school kids are coming and going from school. Crazy. There's that. There's also, so that's automated enforcement. That's cameras catch people and send a citation. Now, the way that citations work is the camera takes the picture or the video, and then a police officer later reviews it. So it's not just a matter of snap and then it goes right in the mail. There is a police officer that's reviewing it. But this is such an improvement from the old just have a police officer sitting out there in the car waiting for somebody to speed by. They let the first 10 go because they're only going 10 miles an hour. They're waiting for that egregious speeder. And then they get in a pursuit, and then who knows what happens next. And so it's just a whole lot of bad things that can happen when you have that face-to-face kind of enforcement versus this automated enforcement. The other type of camera that RPD is going to be using is the red light running, which I'm sure you guys have seen this in any area of the city, and especially after 2020, it feels like people it's a free-for-all. Red, so what? I mean, I see this every morning near City Hall. There's a couple of intersections that are, it's all times of day. It's not just commuters, where people will just, the last couple of seconds after the light turns red, they feel like, well, it's not that red. Like, it's not maroon red, I guess. But the safety camera program will also be ticketing those types of offenses, which is helpful for RPD because they're so understaffed. And again, you're not dealing with in-person confrontation. This is, and you're not selecting which person you choose to pull over for running a red light or speeding. You're doing it based on who committed the act, and then having a police officer review, yes, this was in fact an act, a bad act, and then the ticket goes in the mail. So all that goes back to that very first point about speed management, that speed management is absolutely part of improving the transit experience.
All righty. So y'all are blowing up the chat right now. I'm so glad that y'all doing #Q. I may not be able to get to everyone's question, but I will want to let V know, yes, there are plans to extend the Pulse right now. The Pulse stops at Willow Lawn. It will expand to Parham Road, okay, up and down Broad Street. That should happen in the next 4 to 5 years. And then right now we're working on a north-south BRT, hopefully within the next 10 years. I don't know, maybe you have to speak to someone directly about your relationship with the festival, folk festival. We can talk offline about that, but there are plans to extend or shorten routes, and please join our next transit talk next month. We will be talking about GRTC's 10-year plan and what they have next. All right, so is there anything else, y'all? Let me see if I can get something real quick. And if you see something, let me know. I'm reading down.
I asked how many bikes you can fit on a bus.
I think Stephanie answered that in the chat. There's 2 on the Pulse, and then there is up to 3 to 2. If you look back at your chat sheet,
I got
facilitated
it.
now for you.
I'll just say I got it backwards. It's 3. 3 bikes can fit on the Pulse, and then 2 on the regular fixed routes.
Okay,
I
perfect.
would suggest that you start thinking about expanding that if you're going to promote bikes. Every time I'm on a bus, it has a bike rider on it.
Thank
It's on
you.
the south side.
All right, thank you for that feedback. Appreciate that. All right, so I apologize. What we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste all of these questions and comments. I need to go ahead and start to close out, but I think we will answer a lot of these questions. I just love all the feedback and questions that you guys had. Andy, if you can go ahead and stop sharing your screen. So at the bottom hand side, there we go.
I don't like to give up power, but there I went.
Oh my gosh, that was so awesome. I think people really enjoyed this conversation, and we would love to have you back. And then also too, while I am wrapping up here, if there's anything that you would like to learn more about this topic, please drop it in the chat. We'll make sure that we can work on some other content for you. All right, so to close us out, I want to just let y'all know that we have another cohort happening with our next Mobility University. Mobility University is a 5-week training course where we teach bus riders how to self-advocate. It's going to start September 4th. And so it'll take place every Wednesday. The only Wednesday we are not doing it is the 19th. That'll be a Thursday. But this 5-week course talks about the history of public transportation in Richmond. We talk about why telling your story, how to tell your story, how to write a public comment. We'll even dive into transit governance and funding. So where's the funding for public transportation comes from, and then how you can advocate. And then we also have someone talking about who makes transit decisions. And so we'll look at who's on GRTC's board, who's on different transportations boards throughout the region. And then also how to start a campaign. And so this is all free. We're going to drop a link so that you can register in the with us, or you can visit our website and click on Mobility University. We're still accepting applications. So class start on next Wednesday. We do have a hybrid option. So we would love to see you in person because we have catered dinner all for all of our sessions. And so it's going to be located at VCN's office at 701 East Franklin Street, Suite 800. But if you can't join us physically, we do have a virtual option as well. Alrighty, and then next month, Thursday, September 26th, I know some folks mentioned, I want updates about the North-South BRT. I want to know if there's any updates or plans for routes going from 1 hour to 30 minutes. And so next month, we have Frank Adarkwa, GRTC's Planning and Scheduling Director, and then also GRTC's Assistant Director, Patricia Robinson, who's going to be coming and showing us GRTC's 10-year plan. If you visit GRTC's website right now, they released a 10-year plan document that will highlight the different routes that is planning. And then a lot of you on this call may have participated in giving GRTC feedback on where you want to see routes extended. I know Cinda just mentioned that, hey, I want a bus to go on down Darbytown Road to be more frequent. So this plan will tell you and show you what GRTC has on schedule to come in the future. And so I'm so excited about that. So you can register for that, that session now. It's on our website. Alrighty. And take action, ways to get involved. I mean, first of all, ride the bus, guys. Supporting transit and using transit does support and bring regional dollars to this region. So ride the bus, ride bikes, use the infrastructure that has been put in place, and reduce traffic or parking needs. And then also adopt or sponsor a bus. So we have an Adopt a Stop program where we're encouraging citizens to clean bus stops. And so if you have a bus stop near your home, your church, your community organization, we encourage you to adopt that bus stop. And GRTC has partnered with us to provide you with a plaque on that bus stop. And then also share your transit story. If you've experienced or you have concerns about not being able to put more bikes on the racks, we'd love to hear that and share that information with decision makers. So you can call the 804-286-0007 and leave a voice message, or you can reach out to one of our transit ambassadors, and our emails are listed there. But also donate. If you found value in this content, this information, please consider supporting the work here at RVA Rapid Transit. Consider becoming a monthly donor. The support that you provide us and give us allows us to continue to do and provide this great content. So with that, please join our newsletter. If you want more information about the next transit talks and when GRTCs is doing those open houses to talk about the North-South BRT and also the Western expansions coming up, we will be sending information and updates about those local meetings. So make sure you are a part of our newsletter. So with that, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you to Andy and Dirana for partnering with us to give such great content. And thank you for showing up today. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for engaging.
Yeah, it was awesome.